The wind howled like a dying thing across the canyon. Dry dust rode the gusts, stinging Clint McRae's eyes as he pulled his duster tight and nudged his weary mare forward. His hat was soaked from rain earlier that evening, but the skies had since gone dry, leaving only the cold and the wind and the ache in his bones. He hadn't meant to keep riding this long. He just wanted a place to sleep. One night. One solid sleep without dreams that clawed at him, without waking up soaked in sweat, fists clenched around a pistol he didn't remember drawing. But there was no rest out here, not in the land where ghosts followed you. Clint's boots hit the ground as he dismounted, legs stiff. In the distance, tucked into a hollow in the canyon wall, was a flicker of golden light. A cabin, not marked on any map. He'd been through this land once before, years ago, and he could have sworn this hollow had been nothing but dirt and RATTLERS now. There was smoke curling from a chimney, hay, porch light swaying dot, and silence so thick it pressed against his ears like cotton. He led the horse forward. "Easy now, girl," he muttered. "Just a roof over our heads." Nothing more. The cabin was larger up close, weathered wood. 3 windows across the front, like eyes watching him. He noticed the porch swing was still swaying, even though the wind had stopped. He knocked once. The door opened like it had been waiting, and there she stood, not a ghost. Not exactly Dot, but close tall. Elegant, skin pale as moonlight, hair dark and braided over one shoulder. Her eyes were gray. Not soft gray, but sharp, like twin shards of winter sky. "Evenin'," she said. Clint tipped his hat. "Didn't mean to trespass. Just lookin' for a dry floor. You look like a man who hasn't slept in weeks. Longer, maybe." "Eh?" Pause. Then a small smile tugged at her mouth. "We got a spare room. Worn stew on the fire. If you're not scared of a house full of women." Clint's brow lifted. A house full? She stepped aside. Inside, 2 more women looked up from a long oak table. One, dark-haired and sly-eyed, had boots propped on the table and a pistol resting across her lap. The other was younger, blonde curls pulled into a messy bun, a flour-smeared apron wrapped tight around her waist. "Clint McRae," he introduced himself quietly, stepping inside. The tall one closed the door behind him with a soft click. "Eva," she said. "My sisters, Josie and Maybelle." Josie gave him a mock salute. "You look like hell, cowboy." "Feel worse," he muttered. "You're not wanted for anything, are you?" Josie grinned, eyeing him like a rattlesnake. "Might watch a field mouse. No bounties hanging off that neck?" Clint's jaw tightened. "Not recently." "Well," Maybelle said gently, "then stew it is." The fire crackled. Shadows danced across the walls. Clint sat at the edge of the room, bowl in hand, boots still caked with the desert. He hadn't spoken much. Didn't know what to say. The food was good. Too good for a forgotten homestead this far from anywhere. The 3 women sat close. Too close. And always watching. Eva leaned back, glass of whiskey in her hand. "You're not a drifter," she said suddenly. Clint looked up. "Drifters move fast. You move like you're running from something slower. Like it's chasing you, but not close enough to panic yet." Josie snorted. "There she goes, hidden poetic." Clint let out a dry chuckle. "Maybe I am running." Ava's eyes narrowed. "Slightly. Then sleep won't help you. I'll take the risk." Silence hung, thick, strange. Maybelle broke it. "Rooms up the stairs, last door on the right. Sheets are clean, lamps full. There's a lock on the inside." Clint nodded his thanks. "But if you hear anything," she added softly, "anything at all, don't open the door." That made him pause. Eva rose. "This house remembers. Mr. McRae, just like people do." He tried not to think as he climbed the creaking stairs. The house was old, but not broken. It had life to it, like something breathing beneath the floorboards. A heartbeat hidden in the timber. The room was small, neat, quilt folded over the bed, lamp burning low. Clint sat on the edge of the mattress, staring at his calloused hands. He remembered his wife, Annie, her smile, the way she used to hum while folding sheets. That scent of cinnamon on her neck, the scream, the fire, the smell of burning flesh. He hadn't saved her. He hadn't even tried. The lamp flickered once, twice. He turned it down low and lay back. Sleep took him hard. It was dark, but he was back in his old ranch. The walls burned. His wife screamed behind the barn, and someone stood at the edge of the fire. A woman in a red dress, hair long, face half shadowed. She raised her hand and whispered, "She's not who you think." He blinked. Fire roared. He turned. The sisters stood in a line. Eva, Josie, Maybelle. They all wore mourning black, faces pale, eyes glowing. And then he woke. Bang. Bang. Clint sat up, heart hammering. Someone was outside. Footsteps in gravel. He crept to the window and peeked through the curtain. Nothing. But the porch swing moved, swaying. No wind. No sound. He turned, and the door creaked open slowly. He grabbed his pistol. Stood. And saw Maybelle in the doorway. Her face was pale, her eyes wide. "You should come downstairs," she whispered. "Why?" She didn't blink. "There's someone here." Clint gripped his pistol and followed Maybelle down the narrow stairs. Each creak beneath their feet sounded like thunder in the stillness. Below, the fire still crackled, but the air had changed, thicker, colder, like the night itself had. Seeped through the cracks in the walls. Eva was by the window. One hand pulled the curtain back just enough to peek out. Josie leaned against the doorframe, her pistol already drawn, lips tight. "Someone's out there," Maybelle whispered. Clint didn't ask how she knew. He felt it too. Josie glanced over. "You dream loud, cowboy." "I didn't dream." Ava's eyes didn't leave the glass. "Rider passed the ridge an hour ago. Didn't stop. Just watched the house. He's gone now, but the quiet's different," Clint said, finishing her sentence. Ava nodded. Josie holstered her pistol and threw him a long look. "You know anyone who'd follow you out here?" Clint hesitated. "Too many." Maybelle moved quietly to the hearth and added wood. The flames jumped. "You said you weren't wanted," Josie muttered. "I'm not. Not anymore." He paused. "But ghosts don't care about coasters." Eva turned from the window and crossed her arms. "There's something about you, Clint. McCrae, you carry death in your shadow." "That makes two of us," he said, eyes meeting hers. They sat at the table again. 4 mismatched chairs. 4 people with secrets. Clint stared at the floorboards. "Your father? You said he was a bounty hunter?" Eva nodded slowly. "Not just any bounty hunter. Elijah Wren. You ever hear that name?" Clint went still. His throat tightened. "Yeah, I heard it." "Then you know the kind of men he brought in." Clint nodded. "And the kind of enemies he made." Josie leaned forward. "They called him the butcher with a badge. Didn't matter if the man was worth $10 or 1,000. If Pa got the scent, he brought him back, sometimes in pieces." Maybelle's voice was softer. "They burned our home once. Before, took everything but us." Ava's jaw clenched. "We rebuilt it, but the dead always come back." The conversation drifted, fell into silence. Clint stood. "I need to walk." Josie tilted her head. "Brave of you." "Not brave," he said. "Just tired of being hunted." He stepped outside. The door creaked closed behind him. The desert was quiet. Too quiet. The moon lit the canyon walls in pale silver. Shadows reached like fingers across the ground. Clint walked slowly, pistol in hand, boots crunching gravel. He needed to think. 2. Breathe. But then he saw it. A figure. At the top of the ridge. Watching him, motionless, Clint raised his pistol. I see you. The figure didn't move, didn't flinch. Clint took a step forward. Another. Then the figure turned slowly, mounted his horse, and disappeared into the rocks. Clint ran forward, heart hammering. Something glinted on the ground where the rider had been. He crouched, picked it up, and froze. A gold ring, worn, scratched, but engraved on the inside. I am to CM, forever yours. His wife's ring. He didn't remember walking back to the house, didn't remember opening the door, but suddenly he was inside again, the warmth of the fire slamming into him like a punch. The sisters looked up. His face said everything. Josie stood first. What did you see? Clint dropped the ring on the table. Where did this come from? Eva didn't answer. Her expression didn't change, but Maybelle paled. I buried this with her, Clint whispered. My wife, Annie. This was a ring. Josie looked between them, frowning. You sure? I'd know it blindfolded. Eva finally spoke. Her voice was low, steady. Maybe you didn't bury what you thought. He sat down hard. Everything felt wrong. The walls, the air, the way the floor groaned under his boots. He looked at Eva. Tell me everything. She didn't blink. Our father. He didn't just bring in bounties. Sometimes he kept them here, in the cellar, before turning them in. Sometimes days, sometimes longer. Women too. Eva nodded. Sometimes, Maybelle whispered, there was a woman once, blonde, bruised, came here looking for shelter. Said she was running from someone she'd married. Said she made a mistake. She only stayed one night. Clint's heart twisted. Did she tell you her name? Josie said. She wouldn't say. Just kept crying, rocking herself. Left before dawn. Eva added, Pa followed her. Clint stood, shaking. My Annie. She never talked about the time before we met. Just said she'd been lost, running. Maybelle said quietly, maybe she came here to disappear. Maybe she tried. A long silence followed, until Eva broke. There's something under the floorboards. Clint blinked. What? Eva pointed toward the stairs. Your room. There's a trapdoor under the bed. I didn't see one. You weren't meant to. They climbed the stairs together. Josie led the way. Pistol in hand, the sisters moved like wolves. Silent, controlled. Inside Clint's room, Eva pulled back the rug and knelt beside the bed frame. She tapped the floor twice, then slid her fingers along a seam. Clint hadn't noticed. Click. A panel lifted. Darkness stared back, and the stench of old wood and something older. Josie lit a lantern and lowered it. They descended. The cellar was cramped, dirt walls, shelves of supplies, and in the far corner, a wooden trunk. Clint approached. Eva said nothing. He opened it. Inside, bones, clean, arranged. Next to them, a journal, leather-bound, cracked with age. He opened it, flipped, past pages. And found a drawing. Annie's face, drawn in charcoal. Frantic strokes. Dated 2 weeks before he'd met her. Below it, a single word. Mine. Clint staggered back. The room spun. Josie grabbed his arm. You all right? I don't know what's real anymore. He rasped. Eva placed a hand on his shoulder. Then it's time you found out. Suddenly, a sound cut through the silence. A gunshot. Outside. Then hooves. Maybelle gasped. They're back. Eva turned to Josie. Get the rifles. Now. Clint looked up. Who? Josie was already climbing the stairs. The ones our father never finished with. Ava's voice was ice. The sons of the men he butchered. They burst into the main room as dust rose outside. 6 riders, faces wrapped in cloth, guns glinting. One raised his voice. "We know who's in there, and we've come to collect." Clint moved to the window, loaded his revolver. Josie threw him a rifle. "You still tired, cowboy?" He chambered around. "No, I'm wide awake now." The silence before the storm was the kind that prickled your skin. Outside the cabin, 6 riders circled like wolves. Their torches burned orange, their eyes wild behind dusty bandanas. Clint, rifle in hand, stood with Eva by the window, while Josie secured the front door with thick timber beams. Maybelle huddled near the hearth, hands trembling, holding a second rifle she wasn't quite sure how to use. "They followed you," Josie growled. "They followed someone," Clint said, peering through the curtain. "Could be they came for me. Could be they came for what's under this house." Eva didn't blink. "They came for blood." A shot rang out, the sharp crack of a warning. "Ah!" Ryder's voice cut through the dark. "Send out the bounty's daughters. Send out the drifter, or we burn the house down." Josie laughed. "Let them try." But Clint's chest was tight. That voice, the one yelling outside, it didn't belong to a stranger Dot. It belonged to Trace Doolin, a name Clint had buried like a rattlesnake bite. He never wanted to speak of again. He turned away from the window. "We've got minutes, not hours. Get everything ready." Eva raised an eyebrow. "You know them?" Clint nodded slowly. "Used to ride with one of them. A long time ago. Before I changed." Josie smirked. "Doesn't sound like you changed." "Much, cowboy." He met her gaze evenly. "You don't know what I walked away from." "No," Eva said calmly. "But it just rode up our driveway with 6 rifles and a torch." They moved quickly, rifles loaded. Furniture turned, oil lamps snuffed to kill shadows. The sisters moved like a unit, practiced and precise. Clint knelt beside Maybelle, showing her how to hold the rifle steady. Her fingers shook. "I've never shot anyone." "Good," he said gently. "That means you still got a soul. Just aim low if you have to." From the back room, Josie emerged, dragging a locked crate. She kicked it open. Inside were rusted tools, coils of rope, and something that made Clint pause. A long black coat, a badge, and a sawed-off shotgun. "Your father's?" he asked. Josie nodded, slinging it over her shoulder. The old man had his ways. Brutal, but effective. Eva took her position near the back window. "Don't let the legends fool you, Mr. McCrae. Elijah Wren didn't die peacefully. He was poisoned, right in this house." Maybelle swallowed. "By the wife he tried to trap here." Clint froze. Josie shrugged. "There's more under the floor than just bones." They lit only one lantern near the table, enough to cast dancing shadows across the walls. Outside, the hoofbeats began circling again, slower now. Measured, taunting. Clint opened the journal he'd pulled from the cellar earlier. He flipped to the back pages. What he found chilled him. Sketches. Crude, frantic, like a man losing his mind. The sisters, Maybelle in her apron, Josie with pistols, Eva standing over graves, but beneath those, a final drawing, a woman, bound to a chair. Annie. His wife. In the margin, in a shaking hand. She knows. She tell. She has to be kept quiet. No one will believe a madman. The house will remember. It always does. Clint's hands clenched. He turned to Eva. "Your father tried to keep my wife here." She nodded. "We were children, but we remember her face." "Did she kill him?" "She didn't have to," Josie said, checking her shotgun. "The truth killed him." The wind picked up. The house groaned. Then a crash. A window shattered. Maybelle screamed. Clint grabbed her and yanked her down behind the table. Gunfire erupted. Flashes of orange outside. Josie returned fire. Calmly, aiming low. Eva took a breath. Fired once. A grunt outside. A body fell. The front door rattled under impact. They're testing it. Josie muttered. A flaming bottle crashed against the side wall. Fire licking at the window frame. Clint cursed. If this place catches, we're all done. We fight inside, we die, Eva said. They want us cornered. Clint looked at the trapdoor leading to the cellar. No, Maybelle said immediately. Not again. They won't look for use down there, Clint argued. And there's a second exit. You said so. Eva nodded. Old hatch through the canyon wall. Leads to the dry creek bed. We get out that way, Clint said. Circle behind them. Catch 'em before they torch the roof, Josie grinned. Now that's the kind of crazy I like. They moved quickly. Clint led Maybelle down first. She clutched her rifle like it might vanish. Josie dropped lanterns into the cellar, lighting the space in eerie orange. The trapdoor closed behind them. Darkness. Dust. And something else. Clint froze. A cold wind passed through the chamber, though. No door was open. And in that still moment, he heard her voice. Clint. It was her. Annie. Not real. Couldn't be. But it filled his ears like fire. He turned, and in the far wall, behind a stack of rotted crates, he saw a small door. Different from the one Eva had described. Older. Hidden. Josie followed his gaze. That door was sealed when we were kids. Help me open it. Maybelle stayed behind as Clint and Josie forced the hinges open. Inside, a narrow chamber, stone walls, iron rings on the floor. Chains. Eva stepped inside and stared at the wall. This is where he kept them, Josie whispered, and where she left him to rot. In the corner, a skeleton in a chair, slumped forward, a mug still in hand, a cup full of poison. Elijah Wren, the butcher with a badge. Clint turned back to the others, voice hoarse. We can't leave this house standing. Eva met his gaze. We weren't planning to. They slipped through the back hatch, one by one. The cold night air hit them like a slap. They moved along the canyon wall, silent, low, staying behind brush and shadow. Ahead, the outlaws laughed and shouted, unaware the prey had vanished. Clint watched them, saw Trace Doolin lighting another torch. Old pain surged. Trace! He shouted. The outlaw spun. McCrae? And then Clint fired. The firefight exploded again. But this time, from behind. Confusion. Screams. Maybelle dropped one with a shaky shot. Josie tackled a rider from his horse and put a bullet through his chest. Eva moved like death through the smoke. Clint faced Trace. Head on. The man who once rode with him, who'd betrayed him. Trace raised his pistol. Should have stayed dead, Clint. Clint didn't blink. Wish I had. 2 shots rang out. Trace dropped. Silence. Fell. Broken only by the crackle of fire. The cabin blazed in the distance. Maybelle turned to watch it. Tears on her face, but also relief. Eva put an arm around her. Josie stood beside Clint, smoke rising from her revolver. That was fun. Clint gave a weary smile. Not the word I'd use. As dawn broke, the fire was dying. The old house and the secrets beneath it were gone. Eva looked at Clint. You still want to sleep? He shook his head. Not anymore. The flames lit the morning sky like a funeral pyre. Smoke rolled up through the canyon, black against pale dawn, rising like the souls of the dead finally leaving. The house was gone, burned down to its bones. So were the outlaws. And everything Clint McCrae had been running from, but he hadn't run this time. The sisters stood in silence, faces lit by the dying fire. Josie's hair was singed at the edges, her shoulder bleeding where a bullet had grazed her. She didn't flinch, just stared into the wreckage like she was trying to read the last page of a book she'd never wanted to open. Maybelle leaned into Eva, exhausted, the rifle slipping from her hands to the dirt. She hadn't said a word since the last gunshot echoed off the ridge. Her eyes were red, not just from the smoke. Eva stepped forward, quiet, composed. It's done. Clint looked down at his hands. Blood, dirt, ash, and that wedding ring. He hadn't let go of it, not since he'd found it. Josie broke the silence first. Well, guess we're homeless again? Clint cracked a weary smile. You planning to start trouble in the next place too? She winked. Only if it's boring. Eva asked softly, Where will you go? Clint turned to her. The sunrise painted gold across her skin, and for the first time since he'd walked into that cursed house, he felt something real, a pull, like gravity. But it wasn't romance. Not exactly. It was recognition. He saw in her a survivor. Like himself. I don't know, he admitted. I came here looking for sleep, rest, somewhere quiet. Eva nodded slowly. Did you find it? He looked toward the burning house. No, but maybe that's not what I needed. The ride back to town was slow, quiet. They moved like ghosts, skirting the canyon, riding past the graves of old stories, old men, old sins. Maybelle rode beside Clint. She finally spoke. Your wife, she ran, didn't she? Clint looked down at the ring in his hand. Yeah, from someone. Maybe from me. You loved her? I still do. But she's gone. He nodded. And maybe she left a long time before she died. I just didn't want to see it. Maybelle's voice trembled. You think ghosts stay because of love? Clint's answer came after a long pause. Double quotes. No. I think they stay because someone isn't ready to let go. They arrived at the edge of the nearest town by dusk. A dusty road, a broken saloon sign swinging in the breeze, and a few heads turning as the four of them rode in. Riders. One story no one would believe. Josie chuckled. We look like the end of a bad joke. Clint smirked. You three go on. I need a moment. Eva gave him a long look. We'll be at the old stables. He dismounted slowly. The weight of everything sat on his shoulders like a saddle that no longer fit. Clint made his way to the chapel. A broken one. Boards missing. Cross crooked, but it was quiet. Inside, he dropped to his knees, the ring still clutched in his fist. Annie, he whispered, I'm sorry. I should have listened more. Asked more. Fought for the truth. Silence. No voices this time. No ghostly whispers. Just a flicker of candlelight in the old altar window. And peace. For the first time, real peace. He laid the ring on the steps. Goodbye. And turned away. Outside, Josie leaned against a post, arms crossed. You done burying your ghosts? Clint nodded. Yeah. Good. She pushed off the post. Because we're thinking about buying some land? Together? Eva joined them, brushing dust from her gloves. The three of us start clean. Far from this place, Maybelle added, voice still quiet, but strong. Clint raised an eyebrow. You know anything about ranching? Josie grinned. We know how to shoot, mend fences, and read the weather. The rest we'll learn. Eva looked at him. You? He hesitated. Then smiled. Only if I get the corner room. Weeks passed. Clint rebuilt. In more ways than one. The new house was smaller, simpler, but it stood on honest land. Land the sisters bought luggily, tilled by hand, built with care. No bones under the floor. No secrets in the walls. Clint worked the fields by day, taught Maybelle how to string wire and patch saddles. Josie taught him to laugh again. Eva, she taught him how to breathe without guilt. Sometimes they ate together. Sometimes they sat on the porch and said nothing. But it was enough, Dot, and sometimes, when the wind blew through the hills, Clint swore. He could hear a soft whisper on the breeze, not haunting anymore, just memory. She's not who you think. One evening, as the sun sank behind the horizon, Clint stood alone by the fence line, staring west. Eva joined him. You still think about her? He nodded. She was trying to run toward something better. I think I just wanted to do that better thing. You were, Eva said. Even if it wasn't for long. Clint looked down. And what about now? She didn't smile, but her voice softened. Now, you're something better for yourself. The house burned, but the ghosts didn't win. Not every story ends in revenge. Some end in rebuilding, in choosing to stay, in forgiving the dead. And the living, he came for sleep. What he found was a life worth staying awake for. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. And tell us, what would you do if three sisters opened the door, and your past came riding in behind you?